I think about, man, I have to perform songs every single night or every other night.
Bruno Mars became one of the biggest names in modern music, known for his incredible voice, unforgettable performances, and ability to bring old-school magic into a new generation. Millions of fans know the superstar who fills stadiums, wins awards, and creates worldwide hits. But behind the glitter, the luxury, and the fame was a story that almost nobody knew. A story filled with struggle, sacrifice, rejection, and moments when it seemed like his dream might never happen. Long before Bruno Mars became a global icon, he was just a young boy from Hawaii who was already living a life most children could never imagine. At only 4 years old, while other kids were learning basic skills and playing with toys, Bruno was stepping onto stages and performing in front of crowds. His family had a musical act, and he quickly became the center of attention. Dressed in tiny suits and copying the moves of Elvis Presley, he earned the nickname Little Elvis. The young performer was so talented that by the time he was still a child, he had already performed hundreds of shows. At just 5 years old, he appeared during the Aloha Bowl halftime show in front of thousands of people. Soon after, he appeared on television and even landed a small role in the movie Honeymoon in Vegas. For one day of filming, he earned a small paycheck, but to him, it felt like his first taste of Hollywood. From the outside, it looked like Bruno was born for success. But behind those early performances was a childhood that would later shape the artist he became. When Bruno was around 12 years old, everything changed. His parents separated, and the family music act that had given him his childhood disappeared. Suddenly, the stages were gone. The lights were gone. The money was gone. Bruno, his father, and his brother struggled to survive. There were times when they had nowhere comfortable to stay. They slept wherever they could, sometimes inside an old car, sometimes in places where most people would never want to spend a night. One of the most unusual places they stayed was an abandoned bird zoo, where the sounds of animals kept them awake through the night. Basic things that people take for granted became difficult. They didn't always have electricity. They didn't always have a proper place to shower. Sometimes they had to find creative ways just to get through another day. Food was simple and cheap, and Bruno learned early that success was not going to be handed to him. While other kids were focused on normal teenage life, Bruno was already working to survive. He performed impersonations of Michael Jackson and used the money he earned to pay for recordings and transportation. Every performance became another step toward a dream he refused to abandon. That difficult period built something inside him. It created the discipline and determination that would later separate him from other artists. Bruno wasn't chasing fame because he wanted attention. He was chasing it because music had always been the one thing that made sense in his life. When he moved to Los Angeles at 18 years old, he arrived with very little. He had only a few $100s, some demo CDs, and a dream that seemed almost impossible. The city was filled with talented people trying to become stars, and Bruno quickly learned that talent alone was not enough. His first years in Los Angeles were filled with rejection and uncertainty. He moved from place to place, sometimes staying in cheap motels and crowded apartments. At one point, he shared a small space with several other people while trying to find any opportunity he could. To make money, he even took a job as a DJ despite barely knowing how to use the equipment. He managed to survive for a short time, but eventually lost the job. Still, even small amounts of money mattered because every dollar helped him stay alive and continue chasing music. Then came one of the biggest disappointments of his early career. A record label noticed him and offered him a deal. It seemed like the moment he had been waiting for, but the label didn't know what to do with him. They wanted to turn him into something different. They imagined a specific type of artist, but Bruno knew he wasn't meant to fit into someone else's plan. After months of uncertainty, the label dropped him without releasing any music. For many artists, that kind of rejection would have ended the dream. But for Bruno, it became the beginning of something much bigger. During that same period, he connected with songwriter Philip Lawrence. Both were struggling, both were hungry, and both believed they could create something special. They began writing songs together, often working in difficult conditions with limited resources. They spent countless hours studying music, analyzing hit songs, and learning what made audiences connect emotionally. They weren't just trying to make songs. They were trying to understand why certain songs became timeless. Eventually, their songwriting partnership became known as the Smeezingtons. Before Bruno Mars became famous as a singer, he was already becoming one of the most talented writers in the industry. But success still didn't come easily. At one point, Bruno and his team had to sell songs they originally created for themselves just to survive. They were constantly fighting to stay in the game. Then everything started changing. A song they helped write became a massive hit. Suddenly, the industry that had ignored Bruno began paying attention. The same person who had struggled to get noticed was now helping create songs dominating the charts. But Bruno still had something to prove. In 2010, he finally stepped into the spotlight as a solo artist. His early project received little attention, and many people had no idea what was coming next. Then he released his debut album and everything changed. Songs like Just the Way You Are introduced the world to a new kind of superstar. Bruno wasn't following trends. He was bringing back emotion, melody, and classic performance energy in a way that felt fresh. The song quickly climbed the charts and became a worldwide success. Then came Grenade, another massive hit that showed Bruno was not just a one-song artist. Within a short time, he went from being a struggling songwriter trying to get a chance to one of the biggest performers on the planet. The awards started coming. The records started breaking. The industry that once rejected him was now celebrating him. But Bruno Mars' journey was never only about fame. It was about proving that the struggles, failures, and moments when nobody believed in him were actually preparing him for something much bigger. And just when the world thought it understood Bruno Mars, he was about to take his career even further. His next moves would transform him from a successful singer into one of the most influential entertainers of his generation. Bruno Mars had already proven that he was more than just another pop star, but his biggest achievements were still ahead of him. What made him different was not only his ability to create hit songs, but his obsession with making every detail perfect. Every performance, every sound, and every decision was carefully crafted to create something that felt timeless. After the success of his first album, Bruno continued pushing boundaries. Instead of simply repeating what worked, he took risks and explored new sounds. His second album, Unorthodox Jukebox, showed the world that Bruno was not interested in being placed into one category. He blended pop, funk, soul, rock, and R&B, creating a style that felt both nostalgic and completely new. Some people around him questioned the direction. They wanted something safer and more predictable. But Bruno believed that great music came from taking chances. He refused to follow a formula created by someone else. That decision paid off. Songs like Locked Out of Heaven became worldwide anthems, proving that Bruno could dominate the charts while still keeping his own identity. The song climbed to #1 and stayed there for weeks, bringing back the energy of classic rock and funk while introducing it to a modern audience. Then came one of the biggest moments of his career. In 2014, Bruno performed at the Super Bowl halftime show, one of the biggest stages in the entire world. For someone who had once slept in abandoned places and struggled just to survive, standing in front of millions of viewers was almost unbelievable. But Bruno didn't see it as pressure. He saw it as another performance, another stage, just like the ones he had been doing since childhood. His career continued reaching new heights with Uptown Funk, a collaboration that became one of the biggest songs of the decade. The track brought back the feeling of classic funk and turned it into a worldwide phenomenon. The song dominated charts, broke records, and became impossible to escape. But Bruno's greatest success came when he released 24K Magic. At first, some people questioned the project. The album was shorter than many modern releases, and the sound was heavily inspired by past generations. But Bruno was not trying to chase trends. He wanted to create the kind of music that made people feel something. The gamble worked. 24K Magic became a cultural moment. The album celebrated confidence, style, and the golden era of funk and R&B. The title track, along with songs like That's What I Like, became massive hits. When award season arrived, Bruno completely dominated, winning some of the biggest honors in music. The success was not just about numbers. It proved that an artist could look backward for inspiration while still creating something fresh. After years of focusing on his solo career, Bruno surprised fans by creating Silk Sonic with Anderson .Paak. Instead of chasing modern production trends, they decided to recreate the feeling of classic soul music. Their song, Leave the Door Open, immediately captured audiences around the world. The smooth vocals, live instruments, and old-school style reminded people of a different era of music. It became a huge success and earned some of the highest honors in the industry. For Bruno, it was another reminder that his greatest strength had always been authenticity. He never needed to follow what everyone else was doing. He succeeded by trusting his own vision. But while his professional life continued reaching incredible heights, fans became increasingly interested in his personal life. For years, Bruno had been in a long-term relationship with Jessica Caban. Unlike many celebrities, Bruno kept their relationship private. He rarely discussed their personal moments publicly, but he often described her as someone who supported him through everything. Their relationship began before Bruno became one of the biggest names in music. She was there during the years when he was building his career, before the awards, before the stadiums, and before the world knew his name. That is why fans were surprised when rumors began spreading that something had changed. People noticed small details. Photos disappeared. Public appearances became rare. Social media activity looked different. Soon, speculation started growing that the couple had gone their separate ways. Neither Bruno nor Jessica publicly confirmed a breakup, but fans continued searching for clues. The mystery only increased because both of them remained silent. Then came another rumor that shocked the internet. Reports began claiming that Bruno Mars was facing a massive gambling debt. Headlines suggested he owed millions to a casino company and was performing shows to pay it back. The story spread quickly because it seemed almost too dramatic to be true. A superstar known for songs about luxury and success was suddenly being portrayed as someone struggling behind the scenes. But there was one major problem. The claims were never supported by solid evidence. The casino company involved denied that Bruno owed them money and stated that their relationship with the artist was positive. Bruno himself eventually responded in the way only he could, by turning the rumor into a joke. During one of his performances, he joked about the rumors and made the audience laugh. Instead of allowing the story to damage his image, he transformed it into another unforgettable moment. That reaction showed something important about Bruno Mars. After decades in the spotlight, he understood how to handle attention. He knew that fame brings both praise and criticism, and sometimes the best response is confidence and humor. The truth is that Bruno Mars' real story was never about rumors. It was about a child performer from Hawaii who experienced hardship, rejection, and uncertainty but refused to quit. It was about someone who lost opportunities, struggled financially, and spent years working behind the scenes.
But behind all the lights and records, there was something more personal unfolding.
Bruno Mars stands as one of the most successful entertainers of his generation. His music has crossed generations, his performances have become legendary, and his journey continues to inspire millions. The same person who once practiced guitar with limited resources and dreamed of escaping poverty eventually became a global superstar standing on the biggest stages in the world. And perhaps the most surprising thing about Bruno Mars is that his greatest achievement was never just becoming famous. It was proving that talent, determination, and the courage to stay true to yourself can turn even the most impossible dream into reality.